Jason David lost 60% of his tongue to the disease, and doctors could not promise that he would sing or even talk again.
South Bay pastor is inspiring millions around the world tonight.
The song These Walls.
The song went viral with more than 5 million views, translated into 12 languages and performed in 25 countries across the world.
People in at least 15 different countries are now singing that song. It's being translated into Chinese, Swedish, Tagalog, and Spanish.
Good morning. Thanks for having me today. First, I want to say, y'all know how to worship. That was epic. Like, you're like outdoing all of us. So amazing. So yeah, we pulled up this morning, and all of a sudden my brain was like, "You've been here when you were like a little kid." I think it's been like over 20, 25 years since I've been here. And I guess you remember seeing me rap once, maybe Flagstaff or here. I was a kid. So anyways, I'm Jason. You don't know me, but some of you know my parents. The pastor, Lauren and Judy Slider. I think they're all, hi Mom, I think they're watching. So yeah, my wife and I, we've been on tour almost all summer, and we have an event tomorrow in Chandler. And we realized, oh, we're coming to Arizona, it'd be nice to have a church on Sunday. And so thanks for opening up. I do want to give a shout out that we have a My Tribe family. They have been with, my wife and I have a video streaming platform called My Tribe. It takes families through the Bible in chronological order. And they've been watching for since the beginning pretty much, for 3 years. And they drove 2 hours from Tucson just to be here this morning. So thank you so much for coming. Yeah, so it's kind of cool to come here and be introduced as something other than the cancer guy. Because most places just know me as the cancer guy. So I appreciate that I'm known as the kid of the sliders. That's way better introduction. Because not too long ago there was one pastor and he didn't really know much about me. He just knew my story. And so he was just like, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the cancer guy. And everyone was like, yeah, cancer guy. And I was like, I never wanted to be the poster child for cancer. Not my favorite thing. Never would have chosen that stage name, cancer guy. Also because I'm so much more than a cancer guy. Because I've also been bitten by a seagull, and no one ever talks about that. I've never been introduced as a seagull guy, just a cancer guy. Not only that, man, I've been sprayed by a skunk. No one talks about that. I used to own a little black bunny, furry bunny. My wife and I did, and it was getting late, and we lost it in the backyard. And we were like, oh, we gotta find our bunny before it's too dark. And so I was just looking for black fur. That's all I was looking for, right? So I went around and I found black fur. But it also had a white line and it's sprayed. And I ran inside and I'm trying to find a weapon, but it's California. We don't have weapons. So I found some avocados that were going bad and I started chucking them at it. And you know what happened? Came back the next day with his family. I fed him. So it kind of backfired. No one ever talks about that though. I've been sprayed by a skunk. I've been chased by a beaver in Colorado. Just random. He was inches from biting my toe. I literally was in the water swimming away and he was chasing me. I mean, it was my fault. I thought it was a river otter and I had seen the river otter at SeaWorld. And so I thought they were all friendly, and I was gonna go pet it. And I got way too close for comfort. What else has happened? I've been chased by, I was ambushed by a possum when I was your age. Ambushed by a possum. Here's what happened. In our little apartment, So I was born in Flagstaff, Arizona. When I was like 18 months old, my parents started a church in San Diego, California, because someone had to. Someone had to suffer and go to San Diego, California, and plant a church. So we did that, and we started a church in this little apartment. And I actually thought I was on the worship team because I was like a 2-year-old with like a little toy guitar. Apparently the guitar didn't work, so it was a lie. But I thought I was like, man, leading worship. But when I was like 5 or something, I go into the backyard, and the washer dryer was like outside in this closet in the backyard. I go out there, I open the door, and there's a possum. And the possum is sitting on the dryer. He's like, and they're not cute. And they're like, oh, it's so cute. No, they're of the devil. And he was like, they have like fangs and stuff. It was like Gollum. It's just really scary. So I run inside. And I'm like, Mom, there's a demon. There's a demon in the closet. You gotta cast it out. Like, I knew God told me not to do laundry. I knew that was from God. She goes out. She was just a possum. But no, once again, no one talks about this. I've been tackled by a Rottweiler. I don't have time to share the story. Maybe next time. There's a whole thing, but he literally bit my neck and tackled me on the beach. So that happened. And I've been stung by a bee. No one finds it buzzworthy enough to talk about. I'm still the cancer guy. Like everywhere I go, I'm so much more than a cancer guy. I try to tell people this, but still, that's how I'm introduced. And I noticed that we do this in church. We identify people and we label them based on the worst day of their life. Like when we're talking about someone, we'd be like, oh, you know so-and-so? Who was it? You know the one? He just got divorced. And like, oh, I know who you're talking about. You know that one family? Which family? They just lost their home in the fire. Oh, I know who you're talking about. You know that little girl? Her mom just passed away. Oh, I know who you're talking about. And we identify people based on their tragedy, on the thing that tried to kill them, on the thing that tried to conquer them. I can let you know you are so much more than your tragedy. You're so much more than the thing that tried to conquer you. You are more than a conqueror, and I am more than a cancer guy. I'm a seagull guy, I'm a beaver guy, I'm a snout guy. So much more than a cancer guy. But I do want to tell you about the scariest animal that ever tried to kill me. Before we move on, it's really important to tell you about. To do that, we're going to pretend to travel with me to the beaches of San Diego. So we're going to set the mood in here. And you can go ahead and turn that up a little bit. There we go. All right. Just go ahead and close your eyes. Feel that wind in your face. Take in a smell of that weird politics. And, all right, you open your eyes. We're in San Diego, California. My wife and I were newly married. We were in those first 2 years of marriage. You know how when in those first 2 years, husbands, we're still trying to impress our wife, right? We're trying to be like, no, you made a good decision. Like, right? And then after 2 years, we're like, this is what you got, you know? But, so I was still in those first 2 years where I was trying to impress her. And so I thought, you know, and honestly, I'm a guy. So we really don't know what impresses you, girls, like, we don't. So I thought, you know what would impress her? If I was to rent a longboard, and a longboard is just a long surfboard for people who are not athletic, and like if we rent this, and we just take it past all the waves, she's gonna be like, wow, he's so brave. So we rent this longboard, and we take it past all the waves. Now, my wife just told me, Jason, I'm a little concerned. I'm scared about sharks. And I was like, babe, we don't have sharks in San Diego. They're all locked up at SeaWorld. No parole. So don't even worry about it. We go out there and we go deep into the ocean, past all the waves. Our feet are dangling in the water. We're not surfers. We're just sitting there in our feet are in the water. All of a sudden, my wife starts shaking. She starts screaming. She points into the water and she screams, "Shark!" And I look down. Sure enough, I see a shadowy figure. Now, SeaWorld didn't teach me this. SeaWorld taught me that dolphins do this. Something like that. But sharks, they do this. That's what they do. So I looked into the water to see the shadowy figure, what he was doing. And sure enough, he wasn't doing this. No, he was doing this. I'm gonna kill you. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a shark. So as careful as I could, as manly as I could, I lifted my feet out of the water and I sat on the board. Now, meanwhile, my wife is shaking. she was screaming, and our board is about to tip. Which at that point, if we tip over and die, it's gonna be on her, right? So I'm on the back and I'm trying to counterweight her shape, right? So we don't die. And I realized something, man. I need to say something that will calm her down, something that will bring her peace. And so immediately I said, honey, do not fear. God is with us. I didn't mean it. I didn't feel God at all. I just said it because I thought it might calm her down. And sure enough, here's what's crazy. Even though I said God is with us, and I didn't mean it, out of nowhere, a wave formed. Remember, we were past all the waves. A wave formed, picked up our board, and took it all the way to the shore. Now, at this moment, the shore was littered with hundreds and hundreds of tourists, mostly from Arizona. Which is really funny, because I tell that joke all the time. This is the first time I got to be in Arizona.
Yes.
So all these people from Arizona. And I'll be honest with you, as I held on to that board, I did not try not to hit them. Alright, so yeah, I just held on for dear life, and somehow it zigged and zagged and didn't hit a single Arizonian. Now, when I got to the shore, my phone was ringing. I answered it, and it was my mom. And she said, Jason David! And that's when I knew I was in trouble, because David's my middle name. In fact, it's now my stage name. When I go places, I go by Jason David, not Jason Slider, because Slider, people often mispronounce it as Slugger. I just got tired of being called a Slugger. So I just go by Jason David. Is that okay to say? So I go by Jason David. But at the time, it was just my middle name. And moms, you know how, when you say your middle name, that means your kid is in trouble, right? That's like a common thing. So she's like, Jason David! I was like, yes, Mom. She's like, are you okay? And I was like, whoa, we were just surrounded by, I forgot to tell you the most important part. So that shark, it had swam away, but then it came back with 2 other sharks. So we had 3 sharks started circling our board. And that's when I yelled, God is with us, and I didn't mean it. And yet a wave formed and got us out of that situation. And I told my mom, we were just surrounded by 3 sharks. And she said, I knew it! I knew you were in danger. Because 5 minutes ago, God dropped in my spirit to pray for you. When we got home, we looked on the news, and sure enough, La Jolla Shores was infested by 7-gill sharks. 7 gill. Did you know that sharks only have 6 gills? And this shark has 7. I don't know what the 7th one is for, but apparently it makes it extra dangerous. And so they told everyone, stay out of the water. And that was crazy. But I'll be honest with you. Even though God did show up and he got us out of there, I'll be honest with you, in that moment, I did not feel God's presence. I did not feel peace. You know what I felt? I felt fear. I felt like a panic attack. I felt anxiety. I felt embarrassed because I was trying to impress my wife. Totally backfired. I felt ashamed that I put her in danger. That's what I felt. But I did not feel God. And what I came to talk to you this morning about is, what do you do when you're going through a situation and you don't feel God? What do you do when you don't feel God's presence? You don't hear God talking. You don't see God moving. Because sometimes we think, I must be a bad Christian. Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't think there is such a thing as a bad Christian. I also don't think there's such a thing as a good Christian. But I just don't think that's a scale. I think all have fallen short, and then God covers us through Jesus. So I think we're all just like Christians who are very human and trying to be more like the character of God. And so you might be here and you're like, dude, I don't feel God's presence. And I want to let you know you're okay. When you read the Bible, almost every single character in the Bible, whom we now call Bible heroes, almost every single one of them went through a season where they did not feel God. Where they felt like God had gone silent. They went through a spiritual famine. And God still showed up and did amazing things, and they became what we call heroes. But the truth is, these these characters were just normal people like you and me. And God made them heroic. So if you're going through a season right now where you're like, man, I don't feel God, like, you're okay. Don't panic. But also don't give up. That's what we're going to talk about today. Before we do, I have a confession to make. My wife and I, this is something that happened to us, so we feel like we kind of have to be honest with you, and you might not invite us back, but I feel like, I just got to be transparent in the house of God. Her and I got kicked out of a Barnes & Noble bookstore. I just felt like I had to say that, it's important that you know that, and now I feel like I keep preaching because of transparency. We got kicked out because we were in the kids section playing Where's Waldo. And anyone ever heard of the game Where's Waldo? I brought a picture to show you. Anyone ever played Where's Waldo? Do y'all know what Where's Waldo is? Oh my goodness! I get to tell you about it? You know? Alright, let me explain this game. You should definitely go to Barnes & Noble and try to get kicked out. What happened was, I was a cheap date. And I took my wife to Barnes & Noble and went to the kids section to play this game, Where's Waldo. I always thought Barnes & Noble was more like a library, There's a bunch of books, they have chairs, they have coffee. They really communicate to you that they want you just to hang out, right? So I thought you go to Barnes & Noble, you grab a book, you read the whole thing, you put it back, find a new one. Apparently, they want your money. It's a whole sham. They're actually trying to run a business. So, let me explain how this game works before I got kicked out. Where's Waldo it's a kid's book filled with cartoon characters. Sometimes there'll be like 100 cartoon characters on the page. It's pretty cool. And they all look weird and funny, but there's one of them dressed like that. His name is Waldo. He's very fashionable. He wears red and white stripes and a red and white beanie. Your job, when you're looking at a Where's Waldo page, is to find Waldo. But it's hard, because he'll be like tiny, he'll be hidden with like 100 other characters. So we're going to play this game right now. Alright? We're going to play this game right now. Somewhere in this, you guys ready? I'm going to play it all again. Well, somewhere in this room is someone dressed like Waldo. Can you find him? That's amazing! You were totally moving in the spirit today. Like, Holy Spirit was talking to you and you said, yes, I'm going to wear this shirt because he's going to preach about this today. Thank you so much. That's the most amazing thing ever. It's perfect because normally I make my wife wear that costume and I forgot to bring it. So, thank you. You saved the sermon. So you look through, there'll be like hundreds of characters and you try to find Waldo. And here's why I love playing Where's Waldo. Because the publisher of that book makes you and I a promise. As the readers, we're given a promise. And here's the promise. Jason, if you read my Where's Waldo book, I promise you, you will find Waldo. On every page of my book, Waldo is there. As long as you look hard enough and you don't give up. If you seek me, you will find me. When you search for me with all of your heart. That's actually Jeremiah. That's the book of Jeremiah. That's not Waldo. But it's the same premise that Waldo is on every page. And that promise gives me peace. That promise helps me to not give up when I get to a really hard level. And I'm like, man, I can't find Waldo. I remember the publisher promised me he is there. So I will keep looking until I find him. So I grabbed level 1. I'm in Barnes & Noble, I grabbed level 1. It was so easy. And I was just like being like easy. He's like, what is this, made for kids? Yes. I pick up level 2, beat it. Level 3, beat it. Level 4, beat it. I go and grab level 5, and they kick us out. They literally escorted us out of the building. So, I did something very dangerous. I used the internet. I went online, and I found a website where they scan pictures from Waldo books and they upload them to the website so that people like me can download them for free. Is that legal? No. Am I perfect? Obviously not. So, I went and I found level 5. I printed it out. I gotta be honest with you. Level 5 Level 5 was tough. Like normally I could find Waldo in like 5 minutes. I searched for 2 weeks. I couldn't find Waldo on any of the pages in level 5. It was so hard. I showed my wife. I was like, I can't find Waldo. Can you help me find Waldo? And she's like, you should probably get a life. I showed my friends. They couldn't find Waldo. I searched for like 2 months. Could not find Waldo. And then I discovered something. This website will upload pictures of Waldo and Waldo books and then Photoshop Waldo out of the photo so that idiots like me will search our entire life trying to find Waldo and he's not even there. What a terrible thing. I was never going to find Waldo. He was never there. Because I didn't go to the source. I went to a third party and they removed Waldo. And yet sometimes in my life, I feel like God has been photoshopped out of my life. Because you go to church and my pastor tells me, God is there. God is with you. He will never leave you or forsake you. But then I go home. I go to my broken family. I go to my ridiculous job. I go to school. And I'm looking for God. And I don't see him. See, the publisher makes you and I promise that Jesus is on every page of our life if we will search for him. But sometimes it feels like he's been photoshopped out of the picture. What do you do when you're going through life and you feel like God has gone silent? To answer that question, I want to introduce you to one of my favorite characters. His name is Moses. And I want to introduce you to his nemesis, Pharaoh. Let's take a look. Alright, so I like to call Moses the Fresh Prince of Egypt. Before the Fresh Prince started slapping people on stage. I like to call him the Fresh Prince of Egypt. Now that's just an example. My wife and I make these videos for my tribe, and we take families through the Bible in chronological order, and we use a lot of pop culture references because that's what Jesus did. Now in his time, pop culture was like, let's talk about sheep, but still, it was a pop culture reference. And so we're gonna have some fun today. I brought some pop culture props with me. We're gonna have some fun in just a bit. I want to talk about, right? I know. I want to talk about Moses because, first of all, did you know that Moses had a speech impediment? And that's why I really like this guy because I have a speech impediment. You might have noticed that I have this list. Sometimes people ask me, are you doing a character voice? If I was, I still wouldn't be doing it. You know, that's quite a commitment. No, I know I sound like Sid the Sloth from Iceland. I get that. It's not my favorite thing. You know, like people introduce me like Jason David, and then I come out like I sound like a cartoon character. I sound like a 5-year-old boy. I know that. The funny thing is, like when I named Jason David, my parents let my brother name me when he was 5 years old. They let a 5-year-old name me. You know how close I was to being named Poop Nugget? Like, it was close. Thankfully, his best friend, one friend was Jason, one was David, so I got really lucky. But still, it's embarrassing when people are like, Jason David, and I'm like, hey, I'm Sid the Sloth, you know, like, you know. So, anyway, I lost 80% of my tongue to cancer, so now I sound like a cartoon character. And it's a permanent speech impediment, it's not going away. And so I love Moses because he had speech impediment. See, like for me, I almost didn't want to preach again. Like I used to preach and sing and rap and like all of that before cancer. And then like after cancer, it was like, I don't want to preach. I sound like, who wants to listen to this voice? I was very embarrassed in my voice. I still am. But Moses has a speech impediment. And he stutters. He also feels like God can't use him. And yet God does use him. So Moses, I find that really encouraging. God comes to Moses, and God, appears to him through a burning bush, which in California means something totally different. You laughed too hard at that one. So God appears to him, and God says, Moses, I want you to go back to Egypt. You were once the fresh prince of Egypt. I want you to go back and deliver my people out of slavery. I want you to tell Pharaoh, let my people go. And Moses is like, I want to talk to you again, all right? And he's thinking like, God, I can't do this. And God essentially tells him, Moses, what is in your hand? What is in your hand? And Moses remembers, oh yeah, I got this like Gandalf stick thing. So God is basically telling him, Moses, I have given you everything you need. Everything you need to be successful with the mission I'm calling you to do, I have given you. I've already empowered you. I've already qualified you. You just need to go be obedient. And Moses is like, I don't know. And God's like, what's in your hand? He's like, I got this stick. He's like, all right, throw it to the ground. So he throws it to the ground. And then boom, it turns into a snake. Now that's not going to happen because I'm on a budget. But I know you guys are like, what's going to happen? Just imagination. Just pretend that's a snake. I got to be honest with you. If that was my staff, I would have run at that moment. I mean, I hate snakes. There's no way. And then God tells him, like, to go pick up the snake. At that point, I'd be like, you can have it. I'm going to get a new stick. Like, that's yours now. There's no way. Moses is pretty brave. He picks up the snake and turns back into a stick. And God says, all right, I'm going to take this stick. And you're going to go do what I've called you to do. So Moses goes, crazy stuff, right? He touches the water, it turns to blood. I mean, that's gross. Most of these miracles are just gross. There's like frogs and gnats, flies. Can you imagine if he was like invited to your kid's birthday party to be like, like, Moses is going to do some tricks. No, don't drink the Kool-Aid. It's not Kool-Aid. It's not supposed to be red. Moses touched it. Would you like to see a frog? Okay. So, it gets so crazy that finally Pharaoh says to Moses, you know what? Just go. Take your stick and go. Take your people, go worship your God. Just get away from me. And so Moses takes thousands and thousands of Israelites who have been in slavery for so many years, and he heads to the Promised Land. The Promised Land. This was a land that was promised to his ancestors years and years and years ago. When they were trying to figure out how to advertise it, the PR department got together and they were like, how are we going to get Israelites to want to go to this new land? And they're like, we do a campaign with like bumper stickers and billboards that could say like, got milk and honey? And then that took a long time to set up that joke. Anyway, milk and honey. That's apparently that's all they advertising was easy back then. Milk and honey. That would not get me to go, but that got them to go. So they are now headed out. They're leaving their past behind. They're leaving slavery behind, and they're headed to a new land, flowing with milk and honey, grapes the size of your face. Now that's pretty cool. And they're headed to the Promised Land. And then out of nowhere, boom! They get stuck in front of the Red Sea, which today is blue, but it's called the Red Sea. And apparently none of them can swim, and they don't build boats, so they're stuck. What a hard thing when you're headed to your Promised Land, you're headed to your future, you're going 100 miles an hour, and then boom, out of nowhere, you get yourself stuck. I can relate to that feeling. When I was like, I don't know, 6 or 7, I was going to my best friend's birthday party, and his dad made the best cheeseburgers. So, I show up to the door, knock, knock, knock. His mom opens the door. I don't even like say hi to her. I can see, it all happened so fast. When she opened the front door, I could see through the living room into the backyard where the grill was, where the cheese was doing that thing, you know? Like, I was filled with so much joy. I didn't even say happy birthday or nothing. I just booked it. I just started running through the living room to get to that cheeseburger. So I'm like, cheese! And then out of nowhere, boom! Something invisible slaps me. I go flying back and I land on my head. Apparently, they had a sliding glass door that they kept really clean. I ran into a sliding glass door. I was headed to my milk and honey, my future, my promised land. And out of nowhere, just got the wind knocked out of me, didn't even see it coming. And that's how I felt when I was 28 years old. Got diagnosed with stage 4 tongue cancer. Just felt like it came out of nowhere. I was like, how did I get this cancer? And they were like, well, it's usually caused by people who, chew tobacco for like 30 years. I was 28. So then they were like, so how old were you when you started chewing tobacco? I was like, I don't know. I came out and I was like, light me up. Yeah. Which I don't even think you light up tobacco. I have no idea. I've never done it, never tried it. So I asked him, I was like, all right, I don't drink, I don't do drugs. How did I get cancer? And he was like, the doctor looked at me, he said, really bad luck. Really bad luck. I looked it up. It's not scientific. All right? You cannot be diagnosed with really bad luck. It came out of nowhere. I was running, and I got the wind knocked out of me. I felt stuck. I was stuck in a hospital. I was stuck in a hospital bed. And that's how the Israelites are feeling. They're in this moment. They come to the Red Sea, and they can't go forward. They can't take a step forward. Oh, and they can't go backwards, because going backwards would put them back in slavery in Egypt. Have you ever been stuck between your future and your past? Feeling like, I can't go forward, but I definitely can't go back? For some of us, that's what COVID-19 felt like. Just being stuck, can't move forward, can't go back. And with the Israelites, they couldn't even stay there. Couldn't go forward, couldn't go back, couldn't stay there, because Pharaoh has to change their heart, and now the Egyptian army is coming back to conquer them. It's chasing them. It's really interesting. If you stay in the same place too long, the things you thought you conquered come back to conquer you. When we stop growing and we stop learning, we stop developing, those habits that you thought you would conquer, they come back to get you. For some of us, during COVID, right, like, we finally made some progress in our marriage, and then boom, we were stuck inside the same house 24 hours a day, and everything all the progress you thought you made, all those arguments, like, everything came back. Can't go forward, can't go back, and you can't stay here, because your past is coming back to haunt you. All the things you thought you conquered are coming back to haunt you. Moses doesn't know what to do. God's people are panicking. He's stuck between his future and his past. And then, it's in this moment that God's people rally around Moses. And they do what God's people do best. They complain.
Amen.
God's people are so good at this. Did you know Moses wanted to quit ministry many times? It was never because of Pharaoh. Like, it was because of God's people. Like, most pastors who quit, it's like, people think like, oh, Satan got to them. No, Satan wasn't doing anything. Satan was just sitting back letting God's people do all the work. Steve was pretty bored, actually. He was like, I was going to say something, but y'all have my voice. I'm supposed to be the voice of the accuser. And yet most churches have taken that voice and disguised it as prayer meetings when they're really gossip meetings. That's a separate sermon. Anyway, that's not this church. That's like Flagstaff or something, but that's not this church. So God's people start complaining. And it's this amazing moment where Moses gives a speech. And, God's people are like, man, why'd you bring us out here to die? Because you're such a bad leader, whatever. And Moses, I'm going to paraphrase, but he talks about God's faithfulness. He gives this epic speech. Something along the lines of, do not fear, God is with us. But then, he adds a little something at the end. Just a little something. Alright? This is in your Bible. What I'm about to say, don't get mad at me. I'm just the message. This is in the Bible. Moses ends this epic speech with just one more little sentence. And it's beautiful. It goes like this. This is paraphrasing. Do not fear. God is with us. Now everybody shut up. It's in your Bible. It's in your Bible. It might be a Message translation, but it's in your Bible. I think NIV says be silent. ESV says shut your mouth, which is the biblically polite way of saying shut up. I think that's amazing. I love that. I love that that's in the Bible. I love that God didn't censor that. Like, that's a real human moment of frustration where Moses is like, just stop talking. Can you imagine if your pastor ended next Sunday's sermon like that? Like, God be with you, God bless you, on your way out, shut up! Yeah. I decided to go back in history and see if I could add a little Moses to some of America's most famous speeches. Right? Make them more biblical. Watch what happens. Are you ready for this? Watch what happens. I have a dream that y'all would shut up! I didn't think that speech could get any better, but maybe. How about this one? Abraham Lincoln. 7 years ago. Shut up, South! Yeah. I just did a tour in Arkansas, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, and I still told that joke. They took a while. And then, or this one. This one's a little safer. Ask not what your country can do for you. Just stop asking and shut up. Technically, that's more biblical. I just made those speeches more biblical. Moses is so frustrated that he tells everyone, stop complaining, stop talking. And then in the next verse, this is why you can't read the Bible too fast. Sometimes we read the Bible like a checklist. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, she's like trying to follow me. I'm so sorry. No. That's what I say. Sometimes we read the Bible like a checklist, right? I have 5 minutes, I read it, boom, done. I did it. Pat on the back, I did it. And then someone's like, hey, what'd you read? I have no idea. A bunch of people were begetting a bunch of people. And there were some weird rules about grandma. Book of Leviticus is crazy. So, when you read the Bible too fast, you miss some of the stuff that's happening between the lines. Let me show you. Moses says, do not fear, God is with us, he's been faithful, everybody stop complaining. And then in the next verse, God says to Moses, why are you crying out to me? So something happened between this verse and this verse. I will show you. Do not fear, God is with us. That's what happened. God's like, why are you screaming at me? Have you ever had to tell someone one thing and then tell God the truth? I know that we hated wearing masks during COVID, but most of us have been wearing a mask to church our whole life. Because we'll tell people, No, I'm doing fine. No, Judy, the finances are okay. You know, Moses is trying to put on a brave face. He's trying to be a good leader. He's trying to tell people, hey, look at me, I'm not panicking. But the truth is, Moses is asking God the same questions that they are asking him. He's just as scared. He's just as confused. He cries out to God, and you know what God tells him? Move forward. That's the last thing God tells him, by the way. Just move forward. And Moses is like, okay. See, that's why I'm praying to you right now. Is I can't move forward. That was the whole point. Like, I don't want to get wet. I don't want to drown. I can't move forward. But Moses, what's the last thing I told you to do? Sometimes we're like, I just need a voice from God. I just need to hear from God. God's like, no, you don't. You haven't even done the last thing I told you to do. And you're like, no, I just really need to hear. No, you just want to hear me say something different. But the last thing I told you to do, Moses, was move forward. Remember, what's in your hand? I've given you everything you need to succeed. So Moses is like, oh yeah, that's right. And here is where Hollywood gets it so wrong. Besides like Harvey Weinstein, like everything else they get wrong. Have you ever seen a movie recreation of Moses crossing the Red Sea? Raise your hand. Have you seen maybe the Ten Commandments with Charlton Heston, or Prince of Egypt, or the low budget Christian ones, right? So in the movies, here's what happens. Moses remembers, he's like, oh yeah, I got my stick. And he gets all confident and cocky. Like, he walks up, boom, hero pose, and then boom, touches the water, and boom, big explosion. The water's blowing up, fish are flying. Someone's like, I found Nemo. It's like, boom, boom, boom. The special effects department, they get together, and they're like, this is our moment. This is where we spent all the money. We definitely didn't pay for good acting. It's all right here. They blow up the Red Sea. It happens instantly. It's epic. It's amazing. And it's not in the Bible. And the danger is when we get our theology from Hollywood, it's confusing because we see the movie, and in the movie, Moses prayed, and boom, immediately God parted the Red Sea. And sometimes God does that. I've seen that happen. But more often than not, the best miracles are the ones that take time. Just like when you're cooking, the best food is the food that takes time. The best miracle is the one that takes time to develop. And when you actually read the story, I don't think it parted right away. In fact, I don't even think any movie version you've ever seen has been anywhere close to what the Bible actually says. I actually think it went more like this. Moses remembered he had a stick. He was like, all right, that's right, I forgot. Gandalf, here we go. Hey, all you haters! I know you've been hating. Aaron, you're supposed to have my back now. Miriam, disappointed. All right, it's all good though. All right, you're gonna remember this moment. And you're gonna remember all those terrible things you said about me. You're gonna regret it. Here we go. Oh God. Yeah, this is the part. Okay. Like I said, remember. Be quiet, Aaron. I think he stood there awkwardly. Just like, You know what, maybe the stick just ran out of juice. Here, I got some other sticks. Let's see what's back here. Oh, here we go. Door's ham. Here we go. All right. Just more love, more thunder. All right. That's a hard joke to get. You have to know 90s worship and modern day movie making. So for the three of you that laughed, I appreciate it. Here we go. Nope. All right. What else here? Here we go. I should have started with this. Here we go. All right. Yep. All right. Here we go. Hook hands. All right. Hook smash. Embarrassing. All right. No, embarrassing. All right. You know what? Here we go. Arizonians love this. Here we go. Mickey Mouse hands. Here we go. Just a little imagination. Nope. All right. What else we got? You know what? This probably isn't going to work, but I'm running out of ideas, so here we go. All right. Go like this. Delete this here. Go in. Alright, here we go. Alright, let's go. This is truly desperate. Big things come in small packages. High five. Ow. Oh, I should have started with this, Baby Yoda. We'll just use the first. Nope. He doesn't feel it. Here, let me show you. Look. Doesn't feel it. All right. I didn't want to come to this. I've got one more thing to try. It's pretty dangerous though. Should I do it?
Yes.
Good, because otherwise this joke would have ended. All right, here we go. Here we go. All right, everyone 2 step back. Oh, snap. Half of Israel disappeared. I don't think it exactly went like that, but I believe Moses stood there and nothing happened. Let me show you why I think that. In Exodus chapter 14, we're going to read this together. Exodus chapter 14. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the Red Sea, and all night, everyone say all night.
All night.
All night.
All night.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's a long time. Now listen, that could mean that all night, it could mean that God immediately parted the Red Sea and all night he held it there. It could mean that. But then when you read the next part, I think it insinuates that all night God was moving the Red Sea. That it was a long process. And here's why. All night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong
East wind.
With a strong
East wind.
East? What?
East.
East? Are you kidding me? East? That's crazy. That's crazy. Look. It could have said west wind. Could have said north. Could have said south by southwest or something. It says east. That's a game. I know you're like, east, like what? Listen, when you understand the geography of this story, that sentence changes the entire story. Let me show you. I brought a map. Let's take a look at this map. This is going to be a map of where Egypt is, the Red Sea, and the Promised Land, up in that right corner. Now, Let me show you Israel's route. Israel's route. Israel is going from, we'll go ahead and take the next one here. I'm going to show you how they are going from Egypt over the Red Sea and to the Promised Land. Is that video working for you? It might not work. Who knows? Oh, it is? Oh, sweet. All right, that's where they're going. That's their route. All right, go ahead and show you the next one. This is where, actually, I forget what's next. What's the next one? Oh, west side, east side. All right. Where Egypt is the west side. Everyone say, west side!
West side!
I can't say that in California or I'll get shot, so I say it here. We have the west side, and where the Promised Land is the east side. Now let me remind you where Israel is parked. Go ahead and show me that next one. All right, they've set camp on which side?
West side!
West side! Right. But wait a minute. They are on the west side. But Exodus 14 tells us that God brought a wind from the east. Let's see what that would look like. Go ahead and show me that next one. We have a strong eastern wind coming. It's going to be a hot one. It's always hot in Phoenix. So, raise your hand if you've ever had like a hot cup of coffee, hot tea, hot cocoa. Raise your hand. I don't know if we drink hot stuff out here. All right. Have you ever had to like blow on it? What happened when you? From which direction did the liquid part when you blew on it? It blew away from you, right? Blew away from you. So if God is blowing away from the east side, doesn't that mean that God is parting the Red Sea on the opposite side? Has God ever answered your prayer the wrong way? Like, God, I prayed for a husband, but him? Like, God, we prayed for kids, but terrible twos. Has God ever answered your prayer the wrong way? Okay, imagine this. I'll worry about it. Sorry, I made a mess. All right. Imagine you're Moses, and you're standing there, and you pray for God to part the sea in front of you. You see the water right in front of your feet, and you're like, God, I would really like you to just part the Red Sea. I'll stand like this, cool hero pose. I'm sure they'll make a movie about it. And then, as soon as you pray, you feel the wind get stronger in your face. Have you ever prayed and then things got worse?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. From Moses' perspective, things just got worse. He's like, God, I was expecting you would blow a wind from behind me and you would part the Red Sea right now, right here in front of me. And then I prayed, and now the wind is going the wrong way. And perhaps Moses can't even see the other side. He cannot see that all night God has been making a way for him. And the very thing that he thought was making his life harder was the very thing God was going to use to make a way. He thought that east wind was actually a bad thing. But yet God was doing something very specific. So when the Red Sea finally parted, Israel began going down. But guess who was chasing them? The Egyptian army. Well, once again, if you've ever been blowing on hot liquid and then you stopped, the liquid falls back on itself. So here comes Israel. Here comes Israel. Here comes the Egyptian army. And finally God goes, and the water falls back on itself, landing on the Egyptian army and never hitting Israel. As it turns out, God knew what he was God was doing it the right way the whole time. But it wasn't the way Moses was expecting. Why doesn't God just do what I want when I want it? Because if God did what you wanted when you wanted, he would no longer be God. You would be. He would be your genie slave, but he would not be your God. Also, we'd probably end up having him do really stupid stuff. Because the water would have fallen back on Israel rather than Egypt. See, Moses had to stand there in the midst of the silence and trust that God was moving, even though he could not see what God was doing. It felt like God had gone silent. It felt like God had abandoned them. It felt like God was gone. He's left there, stuck at the Red Sea, crying out to God, here comes Egypt. And it feels like a hopeless situation. And for Moses, he never even wanted to be here in the first place. That's what's frustrating. He's like, God, remember that burning bush? And I told you, I don't want to do this. This is why. Because now I am stuck here, about to die, surrounded by a bunch of complainers. This is why I didn't want to do it. And yet Moses ends up seeing one of the greatest miracles in the Bible because he didn't give up. Why does God do that? Why does God allow storms in our life? Let me give you a quick theory, a quick answer to that. You know the story of when the disciples of Jesus are in the boat with Jesus and they go to cross to the other side, and then a storm rises up. The storm is so violent and aggressive that the water is hitting the boat, coming into the boat, and Peter and the disciples say, we're going to die. So, what was Jesus doing? That's a good answer. Yeah, later on, he was walking on water. That's a good answer. In this story, though, that would have been nice, but in this story, he is sleeping. He's at the bottom of the boat. Have you ever felt like God was asleep in your life? Because he is. No, I'm just kidding. But in this story, he was. Peter, or one of the disciples, goes down to the bottom of the boat. They wake Jesus up and they say, Jesus, how could you be asleep at a time like this? Do you not care that we are going to die? I've asked that question before. As I sat in a hospital bed, stage 4 cancer, I asked, hey, do you care? Do you not care that we are going to die? He goes to wake up Jesus. And I've always wondered, what was Jesus dreaming about? Right? Like, what was he dreaming about during the moment? Maybe he was like counting sheep. He got to 99 and one was missing. It went from a dream to a nightmare. No, it wake him up. I love it. You all actually read the Bible. Sometimes I tell a joke and no one's like, what? I'm good. That was good. He wakes up. He walks to the top of the boat. Looks out at the storm. Just says, peace! Be still. And immediately, the winds and waves die down. And the Bible says that Peter became afraid. Peter looked at Jesus and said, who are you? Who is this? Even the winds and waves obey him? Yeah. Here's what's crazy. By this point, I'm guessing that Peter has been with Jesus for like 2 years. All right? Now, most Christians can't even spend time with Jesus 1 day a week. Peter has been with Jesus 365 days a year for 2 years. One of them could have been a leap year, so add another day. That's crazy. And yet he still takes a step backwards and says, who are you? That's quite a question. Peter has seen Jesus raised the dead. So the next time he sees a dead guy, he's not even worried. He's like, hey, don't move. Stay there. I'm going to go get my friend Jesus. He's going to heal you. Peter used to be scared of leprosy, like lepers. They thought it was so contagious. So it used to be, if he saw a leper coming, he'd be like, whoa, back up, hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your husband. Leprosy. But now, he boldly walks up to the leper and says, hey, my friend can heal you. He's not afraid when he sees these different things in his life. But he's never seen God calm a storm. And therefore, he doesn't think that he can. Isn't it amazing how we make God resubmit his resume?
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
every single time there's a new storm, it's like, God, I know last year you did some good stuff, but this year I don't think you have it in you. Who is this? Even the winds away. See, I think that's the point of the storm. I don't think God causes storms, but I believe that when a storm happens, God allows you to go through it so that you can come out the other end and say, who is this? Even the winds and waves obey. And Peter would not have that revelation had he not gone through the storm. Sometimes you're going to have to go through the storm so you can come out the other end with a greater revelation of who God is. But when you're going through the storm, and when you're stuck in the Exodus 14 moment, it feels like forever. And I know that moment because I was diagnosed with stage 4 tongue cancer. And I'm just going to close with my testimony, and I'll make it quick, but you should come to church. And tithes, I'm kidding. So I get diagnosed with cancer, and at first they remove 20% of my tongue, and they open up my neck, they take half the lymph nodes, and then they're like, all right, we think you're good, we got the cancer, go back to your life. And I was like, that was weird, that was a weird 2 months, but all right, we go back to my life. 2 months later, the cancer comes back, more aggressive, stage 4, spreading from my mouth all through my body. During that time, I had like a seizure, and I had to drill a hole in my hip, and I was in a wheelchair, and I was in a walker, and then at one point, I was at the mall, and this 85-year-old lady with her walker asked me to step aside because I was going too slow. She's like, too fast, too furious. And then I do the big operation, like 15-hour operation. At this point, it's been like over 10 surgeries, and they take another 60% of my tongue. And so now I've lost 80% of my tongue. And then they take my arm. And if you want to come up and give me a high five later, you'll see this big scar and this vein. They take this vein, they put it in my face, and they take this chunk of my arm, and they build a new tongue, which is crazy. You know how some people speak with their foot in their mouth? I literally speak with my arm in my mouth. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. They make a new tongue. And I remember I wake up from this crazy surgery. I'm in the ICU, everything's beeping. I'm just feeling anxiety and like panic. And my tongue is so swollen that I can't breathe through my mouth. And they anticipated this would happen. So I'm supposed to breathe through my nose, but I had a feeding tube in my nose, and something had gotten ripped, and so my nose was bleeding, and so my nose clogged up with blood. So I couldn't breathe through my mouth or through my nose. But they had a plan, they had a backup plan. They put a tube in my neck, they put a trach in my neck, so I could breathe through my neck. But my body was rejecting it, forming a bunch of mucus, and so all of a sudden, every 10 to 15 minutes, I could not breathe through my neck, my mouth, or my nose. My body began to shake, and I began to suffocate. And they'd run into the room with a thin vacuum, like a little tube, and they'd shove it down my neck and get everything out. 10 or 15 minutes later, do it again. It was like torture. I hated it. Just constant fear and panic. And I have to be real with you. In that moment, I did not feel God. I did not feel peace. You know what I felt? Fear, panic, anger, confusion. But I didn't feel God. Now, I was going through a lot of pain. A lot of pain, so they were giving me pain medicine. And the danger with pain medicine is that it blocks your body up from being able to use the restroom, and that can kill you. So they would give me Senna. Senna helps your body to keep being able to function normally and use the restroom. But unfortunately, in all the craziness, one nurse ended her shift by giving me Senna, and the next nurse began her shift by giving me the Senna. Not sure if you've ever been overdosed on Senna, but I'll tell you what happened. The most humiliating moment in my entire life. Never felt less like a man, never felt less like a human. As I sat there in the cold hospital bathroom, sitting in my own waste, covered in my own blood, vomit, and tears. Screaming, but I couldn't make a sound. Shaking and panicking. And in that moment, the only thing my brain could remember is that the doctor told me, Jason, it will only get worse for the next 5 days. 5 days? I can't even do 5 more minutes. So I decided in that moment, by this point I hadn't slept in 3 days. So I wasn't really fully there mentally. It was in that moment that I decided, simple math. The pain hurts. I want the pain to stop. If I kill myself, the pain will stop. So they cleaned me up, they put me back in the hospital bed, and I began to look around the room to find something that I could use to kill myself. Because I'm done. I'm quitting. I want out. I give up. But I don't want to use anything sharp because I'm tired of being poked. I'm tired of them coming in every 30 minutes with a needle and they can never find the vein. So I'm going to kill myself, but I don't want it to hurt. So I'm not going to use anything sharp, which I'm not trying to give you tips, but that makes it very hard. You're not going to use anything sharp. Very difficult in the hospital. So I got my phone out. I did something really stupid. I went to Google and I typed easy ways to die. Easy ways to die. It was around this moment that my wife showed up at the hospital. It was around 9 p.m. You see, she would wake up at 4 a.m., go to one job, then go to a different job, and then she'd come to the hospital from 9 p.m. to midnight, stay with me, go home, do it again. She shows up and she looks at me and she just knows. She just knows. Jason is giving up. Jason is quitting. She looked at my face, and my face was pale. And I know you're like, your face is pale right now. Yeah, imagine it being even more pale. There was no life in my eyes. My wife looked at me, and she didn't know what to say. Like, what do you say to someone who is giving up, who's going through that much pain, and they're giving up? What do you say? And you know what I love about my wife? Is when she didn't know what to say. You know what she said? Nothing. Because I'll be honest with you, there's nothing she could have said that would have made me feel any better. Like, I'm a pastor. I knew all the right things to say. I knew all the bumper stickers and the Christian t-shirts. I knew all the scripture verses. I sat in the hospital bed debating myself. I knew that there was nothing she could say. There's nothing anybody could say that would have made me feel any better in that moment. And so, my wife looked at me. She didn't know what to say. So all she did was she sat down on the bed. She grabbed my hand and she began to cry. And you know what? I think that's exactly what Jesus would have done. Because when you see the story of Lazarus, that's the story of one of Jesus' best friends. There's a man named Lazarus. He's got two sisters, Mary and Martha. And Lazarus is dying. So his sisters, Mary and Martha, they write to Jesus and they say, Jesus, come quickly. Your friend whom you love is dying. And guess what? Jesus shows up late. He shows up 4 days late. And Mary and Martha are angry. And as Jesus shows up, one of them runs to Jesus and she says, Jesus, where were you? If you had been here, my brother would not have died. You know what she's saying? This is on you. This is your fault. You could have stopped this. Why didn't you? You're such a bad friend. You're such a bad God. And if there was anyone in that moment who could have said the perfect thing, it was Jesus. If there was anyone who could have quoted the perfect bumper sticker, the perfect Christian slogan, the perfect scripture verse, it was Jesus. But you know what Jesus said? Nothing. Jesus wept. Jesus wept. He didn't rebuke her. He didn't say, how dare you? Do you know who I am? He didn't say, stop crying, I'm about to go raise him from the dead. No. He gave you and I an example of how to walk with people who are in pain. He allowed himself to feel what she was feeling, to enter into her pain and say, you know what? I would be angry too. I would be sad too. It's okay to cry. It's okay to have questions. It's okay to be angry because what happened to you should not have happened. What happened to you is not okay. See, sometimes in Christianity we make it, we act like you have to be okay with everything that happened to you. No, you don't. What happened to you in your childhood, that was not okay. The people who hurt you, that was not okay. I don't believe that was God's plan. I believe that's what happens when we choose to let sin run rampant in our world. When sin runs rampant, innocent people suffer. It doesn't make it God's plan. I believe God can take that pain and turn it into victory. I believe He can take the thing that's dead in your life and resurrect it. But I don't believe He causes the pain. Jesus takes a moment to cry with her, to let her know it's okay, it's okay. Now is a good time to cry. And then He goes and He resurrects Lazarus from the dead. I love that. I love that. He could have been like, yo, woman, stop crying. Look, boom, he's walking. He would stop crying. You know how you do with kids sometimes. Like, stop crying. Look, here, ice cream, ice cream, ice cream. Stop crying. He could have been like, look, he's right there. Why were you worrying this whole time? But no, Jesus is letting us know that she was doing the right thing. That it's okay to cry. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to not be okay. But don't give up. Because the best is still to come. And even when you can't see what God's doing, He is doing. And Jesus was about to resurrect her brother from the dead. So let me end with this. My wife didn't know what to say, so she wept. And then after that moment, she stood up and she began to sing. Now, my wife isn't a singer. She'll tell you that. I'm not insulting her. I didn't want to marry a singer. I'm too competitive. All right? So I married someone who would appreciate my art. My wife's not a singer, but she didn't know what else to do, so she began to worship. She began to praise. She began to walk around the hospital room. She began to sing. But she didn't know what to sing. So she sang my favorite hymn. Come thou fount of every blessing to thy heart to sing. But she didn't know all the words. So she made up her own words. And I remember those words. You are good, God. You are good, God. You are good, God. You are good. You are good, God. You are good, God. You are good, God. You are good. She didn't hit all the right notes. She didn't say all the right words. But in that moment, it was authentic worship. And for the first time in 3 days, I felt something. It was like peace was a person and peace floated into the room. My eyes got heavy, and for the first time in 3 days, I drifted off to sleep. I slept like 15 hours, and I woke up and I watched football. Because I just need to see somebody hit somebody else. But the most important thing I did is I decided I'm not going to kill myself. Because if my wife didn't give up on me, and I know God didn't give up on me, then why would I give up on me? So I made a list. And here's how I want to close. It's the third time I said I'm closing, so now you know it's real. This is the real one. I made a list of 10 things I wanted to get done that day. 10 things. So I was just stuck in a hospital bed. Might as well be a productive citizen. I made a list of 10 things. And guess what? I'm pretty proud of myself. Guess how many of those things I got done? 0! I got none of them done! Except for one thing. I didn't give up. That wasn't even on my list. But that was the only thing I got done that day. You know what? That was the only thing I needed to get done that day. The next day, I looked at my list and I added like 5 more things. I had to catch up and do more. And guess how many things I got done? 1! I didn't give up. That was the only thing I had the strength and energy to get done. Because I didn't give up. And the next day, the only thing I could get done was this. Is I didn't give up. And that's the only reason I am standing here right now. Amen. Sometimes we beat ourselves up because we have this list of all these things we need to get done. But there are days where the only thing you need to get done is that you didn't give up. I decided I'm going to live again. I'm going to start over. I'm not going to give up. My wife didn't give up. God didn't give up. So I'm not going to give up. And then I decided I'm going to sing again. I couldn't speak for 9 months. Couldn't speak. I lived on a feeding tube. I couldn't talk. It was just gibberish. I went to speech therapy, and after a bunch of prayer and speech therapy, I could finally start to sing. And I want to just show you, this is the last picture I'm going to show you today. This is me getting up to sing. One of the first times I got back up. They had to use subtitles because it was hard to understand me. But I was desperate. I'm going to sing again, even though I have a list. Even though I'm embarrassed of my voice, it would have been easy to let embarrassment stop me from doing what God was calling me to do. Don't let embarrassment stop me. So I got up and I sang. I sang a song I wrote called These Walls. I'm going to sing it this morning as we close. I'm going to sing it up. It's a song I wrote just saying that I choose to worship God even when the walls are still standing. I got up that Sunday and I sang that song, and that was it. That was the big victory moment. I'm not dead. I didn't kill myself, and I can kind of sing again. Boom. All right, that's the end of my story. But then, my pastor put that song on Facebook, and it blew up. 6 million people watched it on Facebook. It went viral on Facebook, went viral on YouTube. All of a sudden, NBC, CW, TVN, the 700 Club, Fox, all of them picked up the story. Started getting spread all over America. Also, we're getting calls from other countries. And now on any given Sunday, the song I'm about to sing is sung in over 50 countries. It's been translated in 25 different languages. And the best part was hundreds and hundreds of people have written to us and said how they wanted to give up, how they had stopped painting or stopped singing or stopped doing music or just given up hope. But after they watched me sing with no tongue, they decided they would paint again or dance again or worship again or just keep living. And now I look back and I'm like, oh, God was doing stuff the whole time. Right? God knew what he was doing. Look, like now my story impacts millions of people. That's amazing. But in the moment, it didn't feel like that. In the moment, I wanted to quit and give up. I could not see what God was doing. As it turns out, Waldo is there. Jesus is on every page of your life. And your story is not over. You might be in Exodus 14 right now. Exodus 15 is coming. And your job is to stand there and trust that even when you cannot see God moving, he is moving on your behalf. And when you don't know what to say and you don't know what to do, just sing and worship and praise until those walls fall down. Just keep singing, just keep singing. Until we sing. So as we close, we're going to sing. You are greater than these walls I'm circling. You are stronger than this army that I see. You are bigger than the mountains that I face. I would choose to only praise you. Oh, this is my song. This is right there to worship you, even as these walls are standing there. This is my song, and this is my prayer. I will declare that nothing is too hard for you. There's nothing you can't do. I'll keep my eyes on you. I'll keep my eyes on you. 'Cause nothing is too hard for you. There's nothing you can't do. I'll keep my eyes on you. Watch these walls start crumbling down. Watch these walls start crumbling down, down. You are greater than these walls I'm circling. You are stronger than this army that I see. You are bigger than the mountains that I face. I would choose to only praise you. This is my song. This is right there to worship you, even as these walls are standing there. This is my song. This is my prayer. I will declare that nothing is too hard for you. There is nothing you can't do. I'll keep my eyes on you. I'll keep my eyes on you. 'Cause nothing is too hard for Even in the suffering, I will sing. Even in my questioning, believe. You are always good, you're good to me, and I will sing. Even in the suffering, even in the suffering, I will sing. Even in my questioning, oh, I will believe. You are always good, you're good to me. I will sing, yeah. This is my song, this is right there, to worship you, even as these walls are standing there. This is my song, and this is my prayer. I will declare, yeah, that nothing is too hard for you. There's nothing you can't do. I'll keep my eyes on you. I'll keep my eyes on you. 'Cause nothing is too hard for you. There's nothing you can't do. I'll keep my eyes on you. I'll keep my eyes on you. I'll keep my eyes. I'll keep my eyes on you. Only you, yeah. I'll keep my eyes on you. I'll keep my eyes. I'll keep my eyes on you. Would you stand and worship with me? Here I am to worship. Here I am to bow down. Here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. Yeah. Here I am to worship. Here I am to bow down. Here I am to say, you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. You're wonderful to me. You're wonderful to me. Hey, hey. You're wonderful to me. Ooh. You're wonderful to me. So here I am to worship. Let me hear you. Here I am to this is my song, this is my dare, to worship you, even as these walls are standing there. When I first wrote that song, I was making a bunch of noise. I was banging on the piano, I was trying to find the right notes, the right key, the right words. And there was a lot of noise. And then all of a sudden, I got silent. And if you didn't know me, you might think, oh, he got tired, he had to poop, he ran out of creative juice, he got bored, he got sleepy. But my wife will tell you that when I'm making music and I get silent, she gets excited. Not for the reason you would think. She gets excited when I get silent because she knows I only get quiet when I've had an idea, when I figured out the words, when I figured out the melody, when I know what I want to do with the music. I get quiet because I need to be focused. And in that silence, I am at my most creative. And you and I serve a creative God. So could it be that when God gets silent, we should get excited?
Yeah.
Because it means he is at his most focused. And that Exodus 15 moment is coming. Thank you so much for having me and my wife this morning. I hope you'll just be reminded that God is there. He's on every page of your life. And I just wanted to let you know really quick why we've been on this tour all summer. I think this is the 11th or 12th state. And we've been on tour because I want to introduce you to my friend. This is Lonnie the Llama. And he's a talking llama and a singing llama. So people told me I sounded like a cartoon character. So I said, fine, I'll become a cartoon character. And my wife and I created this guy named Lonnie. This is a little plush toy. And he's a talking, singing llama who helps kids to save the drama for the llama. He teaches conflict resolution, character skills, social skills, character development, all of that. But it's all based on biblical teaching. But here's what's amazing, is public schools in California are already using the Llama Show in their classrooms to teach SEL, social emotional learning. And for the first time, we're seeing biblical teaching back in our public schools. So, we started in California, and now we're on a mission to reach every school in America. So to do that, we've been on tour, raising support, raising funds. We had a school district came to us, and they had 15,000 students. And they wanted to use our new app that uses the llama and biblical teaching. And they're like, hey, how soon can we implement this for our 15,000 students? And we had to say, sorry. We're going to go on tour, raise funds so we can finish building the app so that we can let every school use it. So that's why we're on tour, because all the money that we're getting, anything you donate today, anything you purchase, 100% of it is all going to Lonnie the Llama, because we're on a mission to reach 86,000 schools, represents 30 million students from K through 6, and bring biblical teaching back into our public schools. And our hope and prayer is that you can partner with us and help make that mission a reality. Thank you so much for having me. I'll turn it back over to Pastor Ryan. Bye-bye.